My name is Kajol Srinivasan. I've been doing
Hey,
top.
Kajal, that's very wrong, yeah. You only named 3 people you wanted to see, not the rest of us.
I will be coming to you, Nihal. Hang on. Your video is already on. Wait.
Kajal, could you speak a bit louder?
Okay. Is this better?
Yeah, better than. Yeah.
Okay. One second.
Ravi is hard of hearing, you know, his wife is next to him.
Yeah.
Just 1 second. Okay. Better voice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So my name, I'm going to introduce myself. Yes, I'm Kajol Srinivasan, and as you can tell from my name, I am half Tamilian, half Bengali, like 2 Chetan Bhagat novels in one. Are there any Chetan Bhagat fans here?
Not me.
Who said not me? Oh, Mr. Ravi, you're really raising your hand. You're a Chetan Bhagat fan. This is shock, Mr. Ravi. I have been asking this question for 3 years. No one has raised their hand. Which book have you read, Dr. Ravi?
I said I'll raise my left hand close to the heart.
Okay.
Half
The book
girlfriend.
of what Chetan Bhagat. No, but seriously, are there any Chetan Bhagat fans here? Come on. Somebody is buying his books. I need people to own up here.
So
What
not
about
really a fan, but I've read some of his books. At least the girl Nick in room 105.
The Girl in Room 105?
That was a good one.
You know, Kavi, never has anyone admitted to being a Chetan Bhagat fan in any of my shows. In fact, in only one show when I asked, is there a Chetan Bhagat fan? One guy raised his hand. It was Chetan Bhagat. That guy is a fan of his own books. But The Girl in 104, anyone else remembers any other names of books that he's written? What about Win? Win from Brandero? Do you remember any Chetan Bhagat book?
Night at a call center.
Half girlfriend, half
Okay.
girlfriend,
Half Girlfriend, 2 Cities.
2 states.
Gates was made on one of the
States,
books.
yes. You know the way he titles his books? It makes me scared because COVID-19 sounds like the title of a Chetan Bhagat book. Even the apocalypse is named after Chetan Bhagat. Okay. So, coming to how to introduce humor into a presentation. Now, just give me an idea. How many of y'all are comfortable with writing a joke? Can you raise your hand so I can see you? Okay. Mr. Ravi, you're raising your left hand for everything. Who else? Anybody else? What about you, Vineet? You're already chuckling. Can you write jokes? No?
Actually, I'm in training now. So I was speaking to Sampath that we have to make humor inside the sessions. So we do not write. It is like impromptu now with the experience it has come.
I was about
You
to
don't
say the
write.
same thing. Say the same thing. Being in sales, you have to introduce some, fun in the conversation so
Otherwise,
that
no one buys.
the other person gets drifted from the focus. How to negotiate, how to cut his throat.
Okay. Tesh has gone straight for the kill. What about everybody else? Has anyone ever written a joke before? Can you raise your hand and show me?
I have not written a joke, but in presentations, usually our medical presentations are kind of boring. So to spice them up or to introduce some humor is required so that people pay attention what we are saying and what we are trying to tell them.
Okay.
I agree to Pushkar after looking his presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the ladies here? Hi, Anchal. Hemangi, have you ever written a joke before?
I'm the one laughing at stuff, so I haven't written anything.
Okay. So basically, when you come to think of it, when you ask someone, can you write a joke? It becomes very intimidating, because most people are like, this is not my skill. So don't look at it as writing a joke. Look at it more as making the audience comfortable. Okay. Now, how did I do that? I came in telling you something about myself, about my name. I chose something which I wanted to share with you to build some sort of a bridge. Okay. What about, okay, now I'm going to talk to Nihal. Nihal, tell me one thing about yourself, which you feel the audience would be very intrigued to know. Something interesting.
I'm interesting top to bottom, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's choose one of them.
Well, then, there are so many things I can't choose any one. But yeah, I would say if people are intrigued, it should be with my sense of humor.
Your sense of humor. Okay.
Yeah.
How about give me something which is not a big positive as such. Maharishi, you have an interesting name.
Yeah.
How would you introduce yourself to an audience? What would you use to connect with them?
So I obviously start that my lecture is not going to be as big as my name. Simple.
Okay, that's a nice one. That's a nice one.
Also, I have a bad, so I take lectures many times with students, so I have pretty bad handwriting. So I
Okay.
always use saying that I always wanted to become a doctor. I couldn't, but my handwriting did. So,
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Okay. So basically,
Maharishi doesn't sound like a funny guy, yeah? The first time I heard him joking, huh?
yeah.
Chuppa Rustam hai.
Yeah.
He's a small package with a lot of bubbles in it. Huh?
I like the way you are heckling each other.
So I like
Not bubble
being more
paper, huh? No, no.
sarcastic. My challenge is my jokes are more sarcastic than humor. So then I try to avoid those. People get hurt.
That I know. That I know. He can be very sarcastic. He can
Now
even
only
write in a
Nihal.
very sarcastic way.
Now only Nihal understands.
Hello. Back to Kajol.
Yes, back to me. Okay. So my point being, a lot of people get stressed because they think they have to crack a joke. It's more about just giving something about yourself. Either it's your name or it's where you're from. Or some comedians even use, suppose they go to Bangalore. They're like, today I landed in Bangalore and, the airport is so far from the city. Things which are very relevant to the city which you can connect. Even if you're traveling somewhere in Mumbai, you're like, the Western Express highway is so crowded. If you're doing a webinar at home, it's like, I just finished washing the dishes. Basically, something that connects, which everyone's doing. And I tend to look at this connect as, let's say, a dog wagging its tail. Okay, you're just trying to show people that this is a safe space. I don't mean you any harm. And why I would use a dog wagging a tail? Then the thing is, when comedians start thinking of themselves as, very, very, they start taking themselves too seriously, and they start thinking they're speaking the truth. That's when things start go wrong. Bill Burr always says, he's a known comedian. He's like, as a comedian today, you're basically with the bells on your head. You're a joker, but you don't have to dress like a joker. So you don't have to go that far in your speech. But as long as you're willing to put yourself down a little, that makes an awesome connect with the audience. Now, what else? Okay, then one thing about keeping it, about building a connect is keeping it simple. Now, when you're entering an audience, by the way, how big an audience have any of y'all given a presentation? What's the biggest audience that y'all have spoken to?
200 people.
100 people?
1,500.
1,500? Okay, who said 1,500? Can I see? Just say your name.
I am hosting you. My name is Sampath.
Oh, but I have to scroll, Sampath. Okay, Sampath, 1,500 people. How was the experience? Could you feel what the audience was thinking?
Yeah, I could feel what you're thinking, and I always tend to use humor. I use a lot of humor in the house, so I'm banned in my house for humor.
Okay.
But I always try and break that, break the ice. Humor, gets everyone, and it has to be not very sarcastic. It has to be something which people will, like to hear, and they have a laugh. So the moment people laugh, they feel comfortable. Just what you said.
Okay, but when you're talking to 1,500 people and you've just walked on stage, can you tell what the audience is thinking about you? Do you feel a connect with the audience immediately?
If the introduction is done right, then yes.
Okay.
So introduction plays a very big role into that. Basic introduction is very important. So the audience knows that this person is there.
Okay.
So the introduction is done, and then you come in over there, you smile at the audience, and you try and connect with the audience. Sometimes you have to change your presentation depending on the audience also.
Exactly. So what happens is, as a comedian, when I go into a club and there's a large crowd and you really can't tell how they're feeling or how they're going to react to you, I try to keep the connect as simple as possible. And I'll give you an example of where I failed. Ever since the lockdown started, I have started going to American open mics on the net. And it was a big challenge for me on how do I connect with Americans? What do I use? I unfortunately tried to keep it too complicated. I thought to myself, what does America and India have in common? And I came out with Christopher Columbus. Okay, I cannot tell you how badly that joke tanked. For me, it was like Christopher Columbus was coming to India. He went to America by mistake. Men can't find their way anywhere. Whatever. They were staring at me thinking like, who's Christopher Columbus? Because it's a very big mistake Indians make. We think that just because the color of the skin is white, the man is damn intelligent. Hardly the case.
I was expecting that to come.
We agree.
No, it's true. It's true. So the thing is, when you walk into an audience, I like to keep my perceptions blank. I like to go the simplest thing. Chetan Bhagat in India works because everyone knows who Chetan Bhagat is, whether they've read him or not. Using your name, whether it's South Indian, Punjabi, Gujarati, Maharashtrian, again is a connecting point. Simple. Basically, just keep the connect simple, and then if they are getting their jokes, go on from there. Okay. So basically, you're going to use something to introduce yourself to build a bridge with the audience in 2 minutes. And relatability. If the audience thinks that, oh my God, okay, what he's saying is actually what I've felt. It's like, okay, she hates Chetan Bhagat books, even I hate Chetan Bhagat books. It helps them see you more as a friend than as a presenter.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Now, how did I connect to the American audience when the Columbus route failed? I told them that my name is Kajol and that means eyeliner. And in India, it's a traditional eyeliner. Even men wear it, women wear it, babies wear it. And they use a small dot of it underneath the ear to keep away evil. Because Indians are very superstitious. Now that got their interest because they didn't know this aspect of India. You know, now I thought I would use Trump's visit to India because they would have remembered that. They didn't care. Trump had gone to a third world country, according to them. To us, it was a big thing. They really didn't care. But when I brought out something which was part of the Indian culture, which they didn't know, whether there was a joke in it or not, they were intrigued. Now, as Louis C.K. says, you don't have to be funny. You have to be interesting. So even if there's no major punchline or a major joke, as long as it's something about yourself which people will be intrigued by, that's also fine. Then, a lot of comedians make this mistake. Have anyone attended comedy shows? Deadpan comedy shows? Yeah. Hitesh, how was your experience?
My experience was pretty good because actually it was a stand-up comedy show, conducted by my own colleague, and he was in my team in the previous company, so he had actually taken my case, but still I enjoyed it.
Okay, so that looks like more of a friendly comedy show.
Yeah.
But in India, a lot of comedians do deadpan style, okay? Where they will walk in and they will just keep their face blank and they start delivering their jokes. And that style drains the energy from the room. So I always find it easier when it's a presentation or if it's a comedy gig to take your energy into the room with you. And especially if it's a webinar and it's something on Zoom, you project maybe about 50% more than you would otherwise. Because you have to push yourself out there for people to feel it. Then, now one thing all comedians are guilty of is that after a year, we forget what it feels like to be an audience. Okay. And if you give a lot of presentations, at some point you will forget what it feels like to sit on the other side of the stage. So it's difficult, but you need to think back as to that guy sitting there, what is he thinking? You know, he's been pushed into a presentation. Has to sit here for the whole day. He's looking forward to lunch. You have to think in the way he's thinking to know what you have to give him to make his life a little easier. Now, when comedians start out, nobody laughs at us, okay? So it's just like months and months of humiliation. And a lot of comedians start thinking that the audience hates you. Okay? They're very judgmental and they're just judging us all the time and the audience is horrible. Have you ever wondered why the audience doesn't laugh? Why do you think that if you've cracked a joke, why would the audience not laugh at it? And it's a genuine question. I want to know ideas. Why do you think an audience would not laugh at it?
Connect, maybe. The first thing is connect. Whether the joke was, they have understood the joke or not.
Okay, that is one thing. Suppose a joke was very simple. The joke was the simplest joke on earth. But they didn't laugh. They all stared at you.
Repeat if they have heard.
They don't like me. They don't
like me, okay?
The expression.
Repeat of the joke. I mean, they are used to that kind of humor. They've heard
the joke before.
Maybe they were not have your attention. They were not listening what the comedian was saying or what.
They can't relate to it.
Okay. Now you're not
Sometimes it
gone.
so happens that they may identify with it. For example, if you crack a Chetan Bhagat joke, and if I am a Chetan Bhagat fan, and everyone in the room is laughing, so I'm not going to respond to that joke because it's probably hurt me somewhere.
You'll feel offended.
Exactly. Offensiveness
also.
Sorry, what?
Like intonations, like how you are presenting it, that also matters.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
The timing.
The
The
timing.
timing
I
of
tried.
punch.
Someone's messaged me saying that they don't want to express their joy. Okay. Never has an audience ever had trouble expressing their joy. They repress it because they want you to suffer. No.
They could be British, Kajal.
They could be British. That is also true. No. You'll have gone into the logic of it, which is a possibility. But the reason the audience may not laugh is something very interesting, which I realized through my experiences with Samba. Okay. Now, for anybody who doesn't dance, Samba is this South Africa, Brazilian dance where, you know, it's a ballroom dance. There's a lot of flair and a lot of hand movements. And it's very open. So I was learning Samba 4 years back from a very experienced instructor from the UK. And she said, I'm teaching you the moves, okay, all of these very glamorous moves, but don't do it on stage until you're very confident of doing it. Because if you do it half-heartedly and if you are nervous, the audience will sense your nervousness and be embarrassed on your behalf. She said it's a human trait that audiences, any human, can empathize with the person on stage. They don't hate you, they're feeling embarrassed for you. And that is a realization that helped me a lot in comedy, because then it takes away that added element of, you know, these people hate me or I am doing something wrong, because that route leads you nowhere. You can't correct it. So, okay, that is that. Okay. Now, when an audience comes into a room for a presentation, you'll notice that all the seats and everything, the seating, the way they are positioned facing the stage, the lighting on them is very deliberate. We always keep the audience seats close together. We always keep the lighting on the audience low. And we always keep them facing one direction. And this is all geared to help you. It's geared to make the audience think as one animal. So whether half of the audience is from South Bombay and 4 people are from Badala and 4 people are from Borivali and there is like some people from America, at the end of it, sitting together, they should all be in the same frame of mind. They should all be laughing at the same things. And surprisingly, this happens, you know. People will start behaving like a herd. So that is a good thing and a bad thing. Now you notice that I am taking trouble to look into each of your boxes and speak to you all, which is what I use to break audience out of the herd mentality. Because if you let them be inside that herd too much, then they start dictating what you should be saying. So that's why even comedians talk to the front row, they talk to the second row, because you want to show people, Jitesh, why are you sleeping underneath your screen?
He's trying to land on earth, you know, he's
trying to land on earth. Okay, I was just speaking about speaking to audiences and Jitesh went off from the screen only. I was like, okay, that's not what I say.
He's thinking of the hemp seeds which I told him to get into.
No, actually, I'm trying to correlate, you know, what you just said. So, with my activity when I interact with people. So, that's what. I'm sorry for that. Yeah.
Sampath still looking for him?
No, one business at a time.
So that's why comedians speak to the people in the front row. They speak to the people in the second row. Comedians overdo it. They try to shame people into giving them their attention, which is not something I would do in a corporate show. It's not something I would do in a presentation. But it is when you single people out, they kind of the rest of the audience realizes that okay, it could be me. So there is a certain amount of decorum that comes into the event. Eye contact, really, really important. Because finally, when we're making the audience behave themselves by keeping the lights low and keeping them together, you're also giving the speaker a position of power. You're giving him a stage, you're giving him the spotlight. And let's face it, at the end of it, it's not a friendly show. You are on stage, it is a process of dominance. Because they have to view you as someone they have come to listen to. If they don't respect that, there is no point in the presentation. Okay. Then, now you've introduced yourself, everything has started, the audience has bought into you. Now you're going to start with your slides. Okay, and I would prefer if you did your introduction, your 2 minutes, your 3 minutes, without putting the projector on, because I personally think that when the projector goes on, it kills half the fun for me. It kind of removes the personal touch from the event. So let's say you finished your 3 minutes, you introduce yourself, you put on your projector. Now you've come to the dry part of the presentation. So how do you introduce humor into your slides and into your charts and into what you actually want them to do? Okay, can I have somebody telling me what they give presentations on besides sales?
I give seminars on career counseling.
On career counseling, okay. And what do your slides normally look like? Do they have charts, graphs?
Very less content, only bullet points and the images, mostly images. Okay. Sometimes funny images also, where an engineer is sitting and thinking what to do after this, like that.
Okay, okay.
Primarily images and videos, mostly.
Okay. And every presentation would be split into certain sections, right?
Yeah.
Now what I would suggest is, suppose you have an anecdote that fits into different sections. You have one anecdote per section, okay? And you introduce this anecdote to the people, not as just telling them a story, but asking them a question. Because it helps when the audience is invested in knowing what is coming. Now, I run this quiz called Quizzy Time on Twitter. Okay.
Where do you get your questions from, yaar? My God.
Okay, I like reading, so they come from there. But I will give an example. So I run this Quizzy Time quiz on Twitter every day at 12 o'clock. And I choose questions which cannot be Googled easily. Okay, because it's a digital age, you know people are going to Google. How do you beat that system? How do you ask a question which people will be forced to think? Okay. So I asked a question which was like, there was one man who survived 2 events which killed a lot of people. He survived these 2 events. It happened 2 days after each other. Like it happened on a Wednesday and the next event was on a Friday. And what would these events be and who would this man be? Because he's one of the few known people to survive 2 events like this. Does anyone have any guesses? What man would survive 2?
That Hiroshima Nagasaki guy?
Yes. It's a Hiroshima Nagasaki guy. And it's an interesting question. He survived the bomb blast at Hiroshima. And then he walked to Nagasaki. And he was describing the event of Hiroshima to his boss. And the second bomb in Nagasaki fell. Now his name is Yamaguchi. Okay. So when I reveal
That's like
the
everyone's
answer,
name.
Yeah, is everyone's name, right?
That's like everyone's name in Japan.
Not really, and that's very racist. Indians are racist. Okay. No, but when I revealed the answer, I said, you know, Yamaguchi has survived both the Hiroshima and the Nagasaki events. I expected the audience to be like, wow, he's so lucky. No, the Indian audience went like, Arey, Yamaguchi is a Panvati. It is all his fault. Okay, because every audience thinks in a particular way. So the humor need not come from you. Sometimes it will come from the audience. So my point is this. Build an interesting stuff. Ask the audience questions. Interact with the audience and the humor will come to you. Then, okay. Very important elements of comedy are, of course, we covered relatability. The second one is surprise. Okay, why was Yamaguchi so lucky? Oh, okay, now he's a Panvati. When the audience can be shocked, that is actually the basic tool of comedy. So if you can present an anecdote which looks like it's going one way and then flip it over, that will keep the audience's interest. Now, I have finished telling you what my basic idea is. If this was a live session, we would all be performing one joke on stage. But instead of that, I want you to think of one trait about yourself. Either it's about you, it's about whether you like pizza, it's about your name, it's about where you stay. And we will go one by one and you will just tell me that in a moderately interesting way. Don't get stressed. You don't have to do it. But I'd like some people to just think and come up with stuff. And while you are thinking, I am taking questions.
Rajul, a personal question.
Say.
You're a good public speaker, and after all the time behind you, has it ever happened that you feel shaky knees in a specific audience? And if so, what's the reason?
Ravi, I'm a comedian. I'm not a public speaker, which means that even after 3 years and after doing very well at shows, every week, at least twice a week actually, I tank in bars. Because however big you are, even if you're Trevor Noah, 4 people in a bar can act indifferent to you and show you the meaning of humiliation.
I understand.
So there is nervousness, but I'm prepared for the worst. The thing is, it's not easy dealing with humiliation, but you just learn to recover from it faster. Anybody else? Any questions?
Yeah, regarding this anecdotes, I have posted a question in chat. So should it be in the starting of every section, or we have to maintain some frequency kind of thing, like only one or two?
I think it's an interesting thing to have in every section, but I leave it up to you whether the section can do with it or do without it. However, I feel that when there are too many slides happening at a stretch, the audience does start zoning out.
Yeah.
So it's nice to introduce a few anecdotes here and there.
Is it mandatory that it should be linked with that particular section? Somewhere linked with that?
It would, because it's opening the section. You're asking the audience to think in a particular way. It need not be linked in that way. Let's say this Yamaguchi incident, okay? I would probably take a direction of saying superstition after that. So the end result should be linked with the section. The beginning of the anecdote need not be.
Achha, okay.
Any other questions?
We have one. Yeah. We have a stand-up comedian who is joining us. He wants to become a stand-up comedian, so he's joining us. He's trying to get in. He's not able to get in. So we can get the next person. Yeah, somebody wants to talk?
Yeah, I have a question, Kajal. Okay. So normally what I've seen, if you want humor that, people normally catch their stomachs and laugh. This is what I've normally observed. It happens when, one person is caught hold of and he's either, put up, not humiliated exactly, but he's made the subject, and then, you see any, any comedian in the front row, they'll see a guy and say, they'll catch hold of that subject and then, they'll humiliate. Even Kapil or any big comedian you see, this happens. So other than this, what is the way where you can maybe become equally funny but at the same time draw a line and do? Is there some way out, or is there anything that can be done on this?
So Indian comedians especially bank on this kind of humor, whether they're taking it from the audience or whether they're going at it themselves, like I'm so fat, I'm so bald, I'm so this thing, I'm so dark. It's a very low grade humor. Unfortunately, in an Indian crowd, about 40% at least will laugh at this joke. So they are taking the easy way out. See, I do sex jokes as well. Okay, all comedians do. But there's a saying which goes, you cannot do a sex joke. You have to earn a sex joke. So you have to do 10 minutes of content which was not sexual and then do one sex joke. Otherwise, you're not a comedian. If you can't get people to laugh in 10 minutes with normal content, you're not a comedian. So anything is possible. Anything is possible. I mean, I've seen tons of comedians who can do it without shaming people. It's just that it's an easy way out, and as long as you resist doing that, you'll find another way.
Okay. Thank you.
Kajal, does it help you to prepare knowing what your audience is going to be? I mean, they could be salespeople, they could be bankers, they could be army people or doctors. And do you find it meaningful to prepare your comedy session?
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, that is the easiest kind of gig when you're told what the audience is. Generally, in a corporate gig, when I'm called, I have the management team sitting on one side and the sales team sitting on one side. And the sales team will refuse to laugh when the management team is looking at them. So then there are other messes. So ideally, if you know that your audience is all doctors, all this thing, that's the best kind of scenario, and please prepare for it. But go with the assumption that maybe it might be mixed. Then there should be some stuff which can work in any scenario.
Here there's a comedy going on. It shows 49 participants, out of which 13 are Sanjay Israni. I'm just trying to admit him. He's not getting admitted. He refuses to get admitted in the hospital.
13 means he's
Kajal,
going down.
I had a question.
Kajal, I am going to-
Okay, tell me.
13 means he's going down. 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 13 means
Okay, I'll let Govinda go first.
Anchal, you ladies first. Guest
Got
first. Guest first.
Thank you. Kajol, many a times I have noticed that, when you're part of a presentation and people tend to, I don't know whether they realize it or not, but they make a lot of sexist jokes, thinking that it's going to get the audience cracking. And it does. But then the women end up sitting cringing throughout the session. So how should one strike a balance between ensuring that you crack a funny joke, but ensure that it's not aimed at any one gender or one race and not left anyone cringing? Things like a presentation should be like a woman's skirt. So it's such a common joke, but it's still very embarrassing when you're in a room full of probably men and you're just a handful of women in that room. So
It's the same thing. They're banking on the easy joke because in a presentation where there are men, at least half of them will laugh at this joke. It's Indian culture. See, as a woman, I avoid sexist jokes completely. I don't know how to teach that to the men. I have tried teaching male comedians, I have failed. So unfortunately, that is the way things are at present. I hope things will change. But it might help calling it out. Though, of course, you will have to be okay with being called a feminazi after that. But yeah, that is the way things are.
Yeah, Kajol, I want to tell something.
Neeraj.
See, me and my son are big fans of Seinfeld. So we've watched over and over and over. And the humor quotient is just the play with words and play with situational humor. And I think that hits very well with a certain mature segment, which can, get that subtlety in that. And I think that's something which I've seen. Whereas most of the time, these crash jokes now, if let's say I get these jokes, I don't laugh at it because I've been there, done that. But when you get these little, play with little words and all that, that makes it very, very interesting. So it's also how the quality of those guys who are kind of listening to it. Yeah.
Neeraj, you cannot control the quality of the people listening.
I know.
And unfortunately, I would love to do gigs for the Seinfeld crowd. In fact, the comedy club.
Yeah, comedy club.
In
Amit Tandon.
No, Amit Tandon. The comedy club in Phoenix Mills.
Right.
The laughter.
The Laughter Club.
Laughter Club.
The Laughter Club.
Now, they used to be a very exclusive club earlier. They used to have 700 rupee tickets. They used to have comedians coming from abroad, comedians here only speaking English. And then it didn't work after a point because the people who are willing to shell out money weren't willing to pay. They can come every night. So then it becomes mass. At the end of it, everything becomes mass. And Carrie Minati has 12 million fans. So we can't help the way the mass crowd is.
Hey, hi Kajol, one question.
Follow.
So, how do you handle cringe situation when you crack a joke and it end up as a cringe? Some Michael Scottish kind of joke you do, and then there's an awkward silence. Why would you say something like this? So the audience doesn't connect, and then you feel totally embarrassed. What happened?
So you outgrow that embarrassment in the first year and a half. Otherwise, yeah, there should be a night in Canvas Club called Media Night on Tuesdays, where they sold tickets at 200 rupees. Other nights it was 500. This night was 200. So the audience came expecting Veer Das for 200. But they gave the audience us, startup comedians, a whole lineup of 10 of us. So we used to have the audience looking at us aghast. That night, nothing used to work. And then we used to go off stage. That's a horrible experience. You go off stage and don't make eye contact with anybody.
Yeah.
So everyone's been there.
Have you seen that Bill Burr Philadelphia episode?
I'm not sure I have.
Sanjay Srani is trying to log in. He's saying Ajay Devgan is going to take Kajol and go away.
But what I was saying about what happens later on, after a year and a half, and you've been on stage and you're on stage every night and you're fine with it, you start looking for save lines. Okay, the audience doesn't laugh and you're like something, you prepared beforehand. You're like, acha, so everyone here is from, I don't know, Pune? Like, something which you can say, which sounds somewhat funny and which you can use to save yourself so that you don't stand there just looking at them. And then you move on to the next joke.
Kajal, one more small question.
Oh, no?
Talking about breaking the monotony, is it got to be a joke, a sarcasm, or subtle humor? And has it got to be explicit, or it can be subtle as well?
Depends on your audience.
But what would you suggest?
As a stand-up comedian, I have never been able to control who the audience is.
Sure.
So some nights I go in with a set, which I realize in 2 minutes is not working. And then I switch to my hacky set, which works with all audiences. So generally it helps to keep a backup. Like, some jokes will work with a certain kind of audience. And if they're not there in the house that night, you have something for backup.
Would you differentiate between humor and jokes?
Of course I would. I would classify British humor as humor, like that very dry, subtle humor.
Would you prefer that? Would you recommend that rather?
I can't say recommend because we're in India. I had an acting coach who used to train me for comedy. And I should always tell them, my audience is this and I can't do this mimicry and all. He said, yes, but you are performing to an Indian audience. And as much as you'd like to give yourself airs, at the end of it, you have to realize that your audience is a certain way. So either you have some sort of thing which helps you survive in that audience, or you're going to tank in most places. There are comedians who say, this is my style, I am not changing it. And they're fine tanking and flopping in a lot of audiences. I am not that brave. So I keep a second line, and when I realize things are not working, I switch.
So finally, Sanjay Israni has managed to join. He's banged at the door so much. Sanjay, mic is off.
Finally, SRK is in.
He's been banging the door, and so many participants are going up, and I'm not able. Half the time I'm just clicking admit. By now he would be in the ICU. The amount of times I tried to admit him. Yeah.
Now I realize who's Ajay Devgan.
So tell me, Sanjay, you have a question for me?
No. Generally, in fact, I missed the entire conversation. I was on some other call, so I so wanted to attend your entire thing, but unfortunately, miss. I hope I'll have a look at the recording definitely.
Okay.
I have a question.
So Sanjay Israni is a lawyer. He can help you get out of trouble if you are anytime in it.
What kind of a lawyer is he?
I am more a corporate lawyer.
No, then he cannot help me get out of trouble.
You want criminal law?
I need a criminal lawyer.
Yeah, you need a criminal lawyer. I understand that.
Somebody had a question.
Yeah,
Vineet.
So, Kajol, I know that many people learn this humor thing in presentation with experience, but in company we get a lot of freshers. Okay, so what should be one or two set of things which they should do in initial days of their job so that they are at least having some idea of bringing the humor in any sort of presentation which they are doing, whether it is training or whether it is a sales presentation or anything.
That's a tough one. See, the thing is, there are the audience perceives newbies and interns in a very different light, and it perceives us in a different light. It perceives white men in a different light. I can do a joke which will tank. American can come and do the same joke, and all Indians will clutch their stomachs laughing at it. So when you are new, the audience senses your nervousness, and there's not much you can do until you get that one. Probably what they could do is do mock presentations to other interns to get a certain sense of stance on stage. Because every comedian, sometimes you've noticed that very well-known comedians are not always funny, but the audience still laughs. It has a lot to do with the gravitas that they build up on stage. Where they know their worth and they're just saying the line and the audience will laugh at it. Comes with the time.
I have something to add on to that. Like you said, intern is always nervous and scared. If he does a mock session amongst his team, he would always be, poked with various questions to embarrass him. And if he is practicing to revert back to those questions in a humorous way, maybe it might tank that time. But if it happens in the session, he might be prepared to put it in a nice way so that the humor is there in the room. And it depends upon his confidence also that who all are facing him.
Don't think of it as humor. Okay, I'm not expecting the intern to come out with great humor. I'm expecting him to know I am expecting his brain to register that he did it once and it didn't go badly. So what I would do is, when I do joke writing sessions, I make all 20 people write a joke and perform it in front of the same 20 people. So when you're going to be up yourself on stage, people start behaving a whole lot better. There are no questions at all, when you know your turn is coming. So what I would do is take 6 interns, make them all present one after the other in the same room. It's just to get confidence. You can't get humor at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, understood. Thank you.
Vishwajit has got a question. And then Sanjay. Vishwajit's video is frozen. Sanjay, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Vishwajit, over to you.
Yes. Kajol, actually, we refer to a lot of.
Vishwajit, stop moving now. Sit in one place, you know. The network, it's not like that Vodafone Hutch network, you know. Sanjay, over to you. Chalo.
Yeah, okay, 2 questions. One is...
Can you hear me?
Wait. No, Sanjay.
Yes.
Okay, 2 questions. One is that I think it's a known fact that Kapil Sharma is the god of humor in India. You know,
Really?
he's like the...
It's not a known fact.
No, not really.
No.
Okay, I believe that. So, who is your inspiration when it comes to comedy?
Loads of people. George Carlin, Mike Birbiglia. Oh, I love Mike. There are loads of people. Even Indian comedians. I love Karunesh Talwar. I like Varun Grover.
Atul
Khatri, yes. Listen, don't record all this. You can't ask me what Indian comedians
in small doses.
But Kapil Sharma is definitely not the god of comedy. He plagiarizes jokes.
Okay. Second question is, if you really want to learn comedy, want to learn humor, and you feel that someday you have, at least a taste of it in yourself, where do you go to learn it? I mean, is there, I don't know if there is some place, or people come to you guys, you take training sessions, or...
There are comedians who do training sessions. So what happened with me is, I just went on stage, and I was a good writer. I was a terrible performer. I used to freeze. So I hired an acting coach to help me get confidence onto stage. And what he did, he was also a guy who was terribly into yoga, and he taught me a lot of techniques. You know something? When you're unconfident, you can't meet your eyes in the mirror. Check that out. I could not look into my eyes in the mirror. He used to make me stare into my eyes in the mirror. So there are various techniques which will help, but at the end of it, you have to be on stage every night, no matter how badly you're tanking.
Okay. Vishwajit.
Yes. So, ma'am, I was...
Stop
Can you
moving.
hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
but stop moving.
So, I was talking about a character called Birbal, and what I
Yes.
learned after reading his stories was in adverse situation, especially in corporate world, when it's a hostile situation, how you come out of it by scoring a comedy point. Like once upon a time, Akbar told him, you have to find 3 biggest fools in our kingdom. So the first one he brought was a man who was carrying monkey on his back. Second, he said, I am the second biggest fool because for 2 months I am in search of 3 fools. Then Akbar said, who is the third one? I said, the third one is here, but Gustaki Maafo Huzur.
I understand.
So obviously he was referring to Akbar. So I actually learned something from this, and whenever I faced hostile corporate situations, wherever the pointer was at me, so I used some comedy, some humor, and deflected the pressure which was on me and put it in the right perspective. So I was just narrating this, that maybe the best comedy is one where you have the presence of mind, and in a hostile situation, you actually reflect it back onto the person who is trying to score on you.
That is possible, Vishwajit. But when you're a comedian and you're on stage and somebody in the row shouts out that, hey, fatty, it stings. Okay. So a lot of comedy is getting past that humiliation, even personally, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on stage, because the pain is real.
No, it's like that. Even like, I put
Jitesh,
it.
hello, Jitesh, one second.
Jitesh is sensitive about it.
There are
No, I
Dr.
put that in a
Pushkar, Dr.
humiliation.
Pushkar has been politely
Dr.
raising his
Pushkar
hand.
is, Adesh, he'll make us all fall down. Come on, Pushkar.
Hey, see, I wanted to ask you, when we are making a presentation, so how much should be the humor content? Specifically, when I'm making a presentation wherein I want to give a serious point or a serious perspective. So how much should be the humor content and how much should be the content which I want to present to the audience, so that people should not feel that this is something just they can pass it on, or they should.
I get it. So I would always open a new section with a joke or with an anecdote, something, and then come to the serious part. Then once the serious part is over, you go move on to the next section, again have a joke. So yeah, so as long as there's a little gap between that and your serious, whatever you're trying to create, that should be fine. Basically, you're using humor to vary the pace of the presentation.
Okay. Ashwini यार तो sleeveless पहना है यार, एकदम you look muscular यार.
Thank you so much, Sam. But I'm not muscular at all. Acha, listen, Kajol, I need some few tips. So normally, by experience, if it's a normal offline training that I conduct or a session, somehow वो humor आ जाता है. Somehow I don't know how. I have not learned it, but it comes. But now, when I'm online, okay, giving a webinar where most of the people I can't see, and sometimes there are 500, 700 people, and you know, I don't even know, and I you know, at times, even if they are on the chat, my co-host can see the chat. I don't even have the time to see the chat, what's happening. I can't see them. So what would you suggest, you know, some basic things that would just not exactly create humor, but at least ease out the, you know, the monotonous thing that's happening, something like that to break the ice. What would you suggest?
So we've been facing the same problem with comedy. Earlier, when we started doing Zoom shows, we couldn't see anybody. There was silence, and people do not want to react so openly. They don't want to put their videos on. So we developed a method, at least Evam and Chennai did, where if there were 200 people in a chat room, they made 15 of them by choice, by volunteering choice, open their video and their audio. Okay?
Oh, super, good idea.
So then you as a comedian are talking to them. You are interacting with them, you are putting them in, you are using them to further your speech. You're using them to provide a little bit of flavor to the rest of the audience who can't see you.
Yeah.
But those 15 people feel like your audience, so you're getting that reaction coming back at you.
Yes, that is the most important.
Because it's very strange, you know, you're not used to seeing an audience there. You say a joke, you don't know what this thing is, and then you're like, okay, and then
then you lose your own enthusiasm.
You do. So keep 15 people unmuted and open with their videos.
Thank you. It's brilliant. Thanks.
Great. Anybody?
I want to ask a question. Now, most of the time, you know, when you are in a same environment among the same people there and in a similar working style, cracking a similar kind of joke becomes, you know, common. You know, that monotonity, how do you kill that?
Jitesh, we have been cracking HR jokes since the beginning of comedy in India, and it has not gotten old yet. We still get away with it. If I go to an IT place and I talk about the server being down, that also works. So there are certain things which are evergreen. Now I get it that some jokes feel very hacky. So what you would do is maybe you would keep them as a standby to break into an audience and then start something new. But they do serve their purpose. I'm not denying it. It happens. Like you go into a comedy audience and you're like, people from Andheri East, give me a cheer. People break out laughing. Why I don't? It's still happening.
Yeah. All the
So you know what you're saying?
Make some noise, no? Like.
No, so what Kajol is saying, you know, I had gone for the stand-up show at Santa Cruz, and it's more of the newer lot of, you know, stand-up comedians coming on the stage and all of that. So one friend of ours was performing, all right, and so she's been doing it for some time, and we were about 25 of us in one group who ended up being there. Out of 40, we were 25. So the guy who was hosting, he came up and he started trying to make the atmosphere light, and he asked all of us. So just to throw light on the HR part. So when it came to me, I said, you know, I'm an HR professional. He said, "Acha, so tum to sabki lete rehte ho," and you know, started all of that. so what do you enjoy most about the job? And I answered, and I responded back in the same language that he was talking. And, you know, he didn't know how to react. It was hilarious because then he didn't know how to react. And our group started the entire comedy show within ourselves, you know, pulling each other's leg. And he said, you know, why do you guys have to come here? You know, you're a comedy show by yourself. So it just, I think it's the infectious, I think, part of the entire humor which comes out, you know, which you were saying that they never get old. These jokes never get old.
No, that's
or
also
these lines
lazy
never get old.
comedian. There's no denying that the comedian is lazy. He's very lazy. If you were an HR professional from Andheri East, also an engineer, you would have made his day. All his jokes would have been on you. So that is nothing to be proud of. Even I hate it when comedians do this stuff. You know? But they do it, and it works. It normally works.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So time to break, everybody. Everybody is going to be shifted into the breakout rooms, and you can everybody thank Kajol. She is really
Thanks,
entertaining
Kajol.
us.
Good time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot,
Love
Kajol.
being
Thanks
here.
a lot.